sure you would have heard this famous couplet which says, गिरते हैं मैदाने जंग में घुड़सवार ही, वो क्या खाक गिरेंगे जो घुटनों के बल चलते हैं.
Right.
So failures are never fatal. They make you strong. One must learn from failures. One must emerge stronger. And just keep this at the back of your mind. These two things, every student, every aspirant, every practitioner, one needs to keep in mind.
So sir, firstly, I'd like to know that where are you posted currently and what is your normal day routine like, and has COVID-19 had any impact on your routine?
So yes, Tushar, currently I'm posted in the Department of Personnel and Training, and I'm looking after the training aspect of all the Indian civil servants. And this includes the civil servants working in the central government, as well as framing the national training policy for the whole of the country. To be precise, my current assignment involves looking after a recently launched ambitious project of the government called Mission Karamyogi, which is a massive and a comprehensive civil service reform, which aims to, let's say, equip all our senior public functionaries as well as cutting-edge civil servants and all officials in the government with all the competencies that they need to discharge their functions. So it involves a bit of a technology part also. We are creating probably at some point of time it will become the world's largest online learning platform, which provides resources, courses, content for people to upgrade their competencies. So this is my current assignment. I joined it about 6 months back when I completed my master's degree in the US and rejoined the central government.
And sir, if you could tell us a bit about your daily routine, like a normal day routine.
So it used to be different pre-COVID times, but now it's more or less a very structured routine. It's home to office and back home. Weekends are all spent inside the house, which is a good thing in a way.
Yeah.
So as with the normal office, around 9:30 to 6:37 is the office time. And other than that, we stay at home. I have 2 kids and my wife is a batchmate. She's also a civil servant. She's working with the Delhi government in the Municipal Corporation of Delhi.
Okay.
And pre-COVID, I guess there used to be some socialization. There used to be evening activities. People used to participate in group activities, and weekends one would go out, explore things around Delhi, take kids out to historical places, take them out for other fun activities. But I guess since COVID, that has all come under some sort of restriction. We all hope that we go back to our normal lives pretty soon.
Right, sir. So, sir, as you are aware that we asked the students as well to put in their questions, and there were a lot of requests regarding to know that what is the job of an IAS officer in general, what are the positives and negatives of this job, and since you have about like 18 years of experience in this field now, so could you please throw some light on that?
Okay. So Tushar, at one level, this is a question which will depend a lot on individual attitudes and individual aptitudes. So as a kind of pre-warning, before I try to answer this question, let me say that I'll go at some level of abstraction and try to give the most general answer to this question. Because as I said, the pros and cons or the job as an IAS officer, it will depend from person to person on what are your perspectives in life, what are your passions in life, and what do you want from life in general. So at a very high level of abstraction, the IAS officers are basically public functionaries who are involved in the public policy space in the government. They do it in 2 ways. They do policy implementation as well as public policy formulation. So for a typical IAS officer, you would see that first 8 to 10 to 12 years are spent in the field, where you implement different policies which are formed by the government. So this could involve postings like subdivisional magistrate, a district magistrate, or the deputy commissioner, which also the collector, which is the most popular posting of an IAS officer, and even a divisional commissioner. So these are all field level postings where you actually work on the ground have a direct interface with people and implement policies which are framed by the government. And then subsequently, as you become senior in your cadre, let's say starting from 13th to 15th year of your service, you get into the zone of crafting policies. So then many IAS officers would probably move towards a sector, or at least do a stint in a sector, and then frame either the state level or the national level public policy for that sector. What should be the vision for that sector? Consider a sector like energy, transport, water, health, education. So the public policy aspect of these sectors, what's our vision for the next 20 years? What should be the roadmap to achieve that vision? What are the financial resources required? What are the human resources required? So all that planning becomes a part of a typical IAS officer's job as one grows senior. And subsequently towards let's say the last 5 or 10 years of your career, you would typically end up being the head of a department in the central government, which is called the secretary to the government, where you actually aid and advise the government in forming the national level policy for that sector. So typically, to sum it up, it's policy implementation in the first 10 to 12 years of service, followed by public policy formulation in the rest of your career. So that's what the typical profile looks like. When it comes to pros and cons, it's a very difficult question to answer because it will all again depend on your individual preferences. But let me try to put it this way. Let me try to attempt. And this brings me back to my UPSC days also, because I think this is a typical question asked during a civil services interview, or why do you want to join the civil service in the first place? I think a generally acceptable or a common reason for many people to join the service would be that this career provides you immense responsibility as well as authority to, let's say, impact large sections of the population or to do good to large sections of the society at a very young age. Now, each of these words needs to be stressed upon. I think you can catch 3 or 4 keywords from what I said: responsibility, authority, large sections of the society, and young age. So for example, many other careers might offer you this opportunity at the age of 55, 60, but when you start as a subdivisional magistrate in charge of a subdivision, you're already looking after, say, a population of 5 to 6 lakhs, a budget of, say, up to, depending on your size of your subdivision, 40 to 50 crores, maybe 100 crores. And also teams of your own office, which may be as big as 100, 200, 500 people. So that is one big positive of civil service. Second, for anybody who has a public service bent of mind, I think this platform provides you an opportunity like none other. It's not to say that you cannot do public service in any other way. You can do it through an NGO, you can set up a social entrepreneur network, you can even through private foundations, even through private sector, you can do a lot of social work. But the scale that a civil service career provides is immense. And lastly, there's immense diversity and variety in this job. So every 3 years, your sector changes. One day you're looking after law and order, then you're looking after textiles, then you're looking after education, then you're looking after World Bank or ADB related assignments. Other day you are in finance, energy, transport. The world is your playground. So this never lets you get, if I put it colloquially, bored from your job or your career. There's immense variety. So you move on and you gain a lot of meta experience for all these sectors combined. So as I said, individually for me, I think these were the 3 biggest positives of the civil service when I decided to join it as a career option. Plus also this career option comes with a lot of social respect, social prestige. So those are add-ons. Coming to the cons or the negatives, I think one, this is a high pressure job. So regardless of where you are posted, there are different kinds of pressures in the service. This could be pressures related to the decision that you have to take, which might just have massive implications on the society. It could be a decision related to how you handle a law and order problem. It could be a decision related to how you handle, let's say, unauthorized encroachments. so which may ultimately become a law and order issue. So every small deviation in a decision, or every minor thing that you overlook might end up having massive consequences. Second, of course, no individual can single-handedly create public policy. So there are a lot of actors when you take public policy decisions, when you take public decisions in the larger national interest. So at times you might find yourself and your ideas at conflict with what other people are thinking. And at times you might even not agree with the train of thought that is generally being taken. So at those points, you have to, in a way, balance the pressures. You have to balance your own convictions. You have to balance what your conscience tells you. You have to balance what your morals have guided you. And those are pressure situations that one faces in not only in the IAS, but in any form of public life. A politician faces those pressures. Anybody who is, let's say, a doctor taking a critical decision before performing an operation faces those pressures. So those pressures exist in the civil services jobs also. And at times, let's say, if they come in a series and if they come without pause, they may end up taking a toll on your private life, or they may end up taking some time away from your family life. So those are the kinds of pressures of public life, which I think that a person has to learn to balance if he or she is deciding to make a career in as a civil services as an option.
Right. Sir, there is a very common criticism about engineers and especially IITians that after graduating, they don't, or all of them don't go directly in the technical sector. Like many of them, apply for UPSC and they go in public services. So, I mean, this is also a very typical question in the interviews as well. कि आपने IIT से graduation किया है, तो आप technical sector में क्यों नहीं जा रहे? So, I mean, what is your take on this?
So I think not only UPSC, IITians typically have done so well in so many fields, be it investment banking, which is not technology related, be it strategic consulting, be it UPSC, or be it politics. So IITians have generally done well in many, many fields. So my take on this is as follows, 3 things. One, while you are in your undergrad studies, it's not typically that you are getting acquainted to the deep, high-level technical concepts of the sector. It's a formative stage for you, where you are getting exposed to college life, where you're getting exposed to how to deal with the world, where you're absorbing ideas and everything, where even a student of history learns how to deal with numbers, where even a student of technology learns how to write good English or how to write good reports. So these are general formative years of your life, number one. Number 2, IITians have done well in all fields, and that's a great thing. That's a good thing. We need good people in all fields in life. And would you not like your best people to go into the public policy sector? Because those are the policies which affect the nation at the biggest level. So if I were you, even if I were the student, I would want the best people of my country to be my public policy formulators. Right. And I, without any doubt in my mind, with all the authority in my command, I have no hesitation in saying that IITians are amongst the best, if not the best people. Sure. So if they go into a sector which affects our country as a whole, where they can contribute very, very meaningfully to either improving the lives of our citizens or taking the country on the appropriate growth trajectory, I think it's a great thing. And the third argument I give here is that of individual choice. So, for example, consider an exam like UPSC. Once you have allowed engineers to sit in that exam, obviously at an individual level, UPSC is, for that matter, is a very, very uncertain exam. Take a service like IAS. When I took the exam, I think our batch strength is 70. So your rank had to be within top 100 to get selected. And approximately 5 lakh to a million people these days, I guess, sit for this exam. So the chances of selection are very, very unpredictable. Even if you are the best, there can be no guarantee that you'll get selected. So people will want a career safety, a career backup before they can sit for the UPSC exam. And to that extent, at every stage, a person would want a best career option for him or her. So somebody who's competent, he would, even if he's aiming for UPSC, ultimately might want to get admission into one of the IITs, and so that he gets the best for himself or herself at every stage of life. So combining these three arguments, I would say it's a very welcome option that engineers are joining different fields of life, be it UPSC or finance or technology or management. I think it's a good thing, and we must promote this.
Right, definitely. Sir, now we would like to talk about you scoring like 171 out of 170 in an exam at Harvard University. And I guess this had made headlines last year. And to be honest, I mean, this is something which I had never heard of. So firstly, I would like to know that how did you manage to pull it off? And secondly, if you could also tell us a bit about your master's degree course which you pursued. And is it like the government of India provides some grants to the public servants to pursue such courses abroad?
So first, a disclaimer. I think the score of 171 out of 170 got a bit more attention than it should have. I mean, it was a good thing to do, but in the Indian media space, it became probably bigger than what it should have. And the reason is as follows. So in the US academic system, they have this culture, or they have this tradition of giving extra credit marks to answers which exceed the teacher's expectations. Okay. Or if there's a particularly challenging question on the exam, the teacher would end up giving you more marks than those allotted for the question, and these are called extra credit marks. And this is something which happened with me. This was my macroeconomics exam, and our professor of macroeconomics was a very well-renowned macroeconomist, Professor Jeffrey Frankel, who teaches the advanced macroeconomics course at the Harvard University. So it was his course I was taking. And I love macroeconomics. I discovered my passion for this subject only after I completed my graduation at IIT. But as soon as I got introduced to this subject, and this was during my IAS training days at our training academy in Missouri, I just fell in love with the subject. So when I took this advanced course at Harvard, Professor Frankel has a great way of teaching. I got completely absorbed into this course. And there was this particular question in the final exam where we had to analyze, a country was given to us and its macroeconomic variables and parameters were given to us. And we were supposed to analyze that, is this country in a good shape for future? What steps should the country take so that there are no fiscal problems in this country, there are no macroeconomic fluctuations in the country, and that the economy of the country stays on a good track. So I think this was a 50-mark question, and I wrote a very detailed answer to this, and to my surprise, lo and behold, I got a score of 51 out of 50 or 52 out of 50 on this particular question. So at one level, this indicated that the answer was good, and it contained beyond what the students were expected to write in the exam. But having said that, I think that's it. So it was just an acknowledgement of that answer being good, but the overall score crossed the traditional figures of 100%. And I posted this on my Facebook page without any intention of getting famous in the media. So let me take a step back. While I was growing up, my dad used to tell me that never aim for 10 out of 10, always aim for 11 out of 10. That's what sets you apart from others. So of course, this has never happened earlier in my life. So the first time I got 171 out of 170, I was reminded of my dad telling me those as I was growing up in say primary or middle school. So I just posted this on my Facebook page and said, Dad, this is for you. You used to tell me 30 years back that this is supposed to be done by a freak accident or by whatever means. This has happened today, so this is for you. And somebody in the media picked it up, and somehow it became too much of news here. So this is the background to this entire story. My course was called Masters in International Development. It's largely a course in PhD level economics. So it has components like advanced courses in macroeconomics, financial crisis, advanced microeconomics, including game theory, and then econometrics, statistics, and using advanced econometric models to analyze complicated data sets. So these are the essential academic constituents of the first year of the course. And the second year, you are supposed to, electives are all your choice, but people typically take electives in macroeconomics, trade and commerce, finance, and writing, speaking, good communication, report writing, and also in public policy skills, and also sectoral courses. So in my second year, I took courses at the Harvard Law School in international trade law. I took a course in corporate finance at MIT, and that's a great thing about these universities in Cambridge. They allow you to seamlessly move amongst each other for taking courses. So a Harvard student can take a course at MIT or at any of the Harvard schools. So it's a diverse bouquet of courses that I was able to take. So at the end of it, I would say this was a 2-year course. My specialization was in macroeconomics, and I also did a fair amount of micro as well as econometrics, and I did advanced courses in public finance as well as corporate finance. And so at the end of it, it's ultimately a course in development. You are supposed to use all these principles to tackle the most prominent challenges that the global community faces today. And these include challenges like poverty, health, nutrition, education, land, savings, microfinance. So once you have learned these principles, the idea is to use all these principles in these sectors and ultimately alleviate global poverty. The academic chair of the course is Professor Danny Roderick, who we used to call the Aristotle of our age, because he's a man of ideas. You must read some of his work on globalization. And I won't be surprised if you see his name in the list of Nobel Prize winners in the near future.
Right. And sir, if you could tell us a bit more about, is there a scheme by the government of India that sends public servants to pursue such courses?
Oh yes. So there's a scheme called funding of foreign training, where there are different models. So Government of India nominates some of its officers, and there's another track where if an officer gets admission in any top course in a top university, the Government of India funds your tuition fees as well as some of your living expenses. Having said that, my course, I got direct admission into the Harvard University. I didn't get admission through the government channel, and I received a funding. I received my scholarship from the World Bank. So I was largely funded through this World Bank scholarship. There was some gap in the scholarship, which was very kindly provided to me by the Government of India. And so in this case, yes, as I said, there is a scheme by the Government of India for funding foreign studies abroad. It is dependent on how well you have done in your career, where you are, what's your past profile, and also one track of this scheme depends on whether you have been able to secure admission on your own through the competitive channel in one of the top courses amongst the top 20 universities in the world.
Right. So, sir, now I would like to go a bit back in the timeline, like talking about you clearing IIT Delhi, coming to IIT Delhi, and then clearing UPSC in the very first attempt right after graduation and securing All India Rank 1. And now we talk about, you getting these many marks at Harvard University. So what I believe that this actually speaks of your consistency. So what, according to you, is that one X factor or that mantra which you would like to share with us, which has helped you to be consistent all throughout these years?
I'm still looking for that X factor, but a simple answer to this would be as follows. So I generally believe that I am a free-spirited person. But fortunately, when it comes to academics, somehow I get myself to be disciplined as well as meticulous. This is number one. And more important than that, I always have some kind of high octane motivator at the back of my mind. So for instance, when I wrote the civil services exam, my entire family was looking up to me. So this motivation that I have to do well for my family, this rank in the civil services exam is not only a career choice for me, but is also a social platform for my extended family. This motivation was always there at the back of my mind. Similarly, when I was writing my exams at Harvard, I did not merely think of myself as a Harvard student. I thought of me representing not India. I thought of myself representing the Indian government. And if I create a good or bad impression there, it adds or takes away from the existing impression that people at the best university or amongst the top universities in the world have about India as a country, or have about the Indian civil servants, or have about the Indian government. So once you have these motivators at the back of your mind, and once somehow you can either force yourself or discipline yourself to be meticulous. Let's say you have your timetables drawn up in advance, you know when your revision cycles will end, and you have that willpower to say no to distractions like, let's say, late night parties in the middle of the exam. I think after that, don't talk about me, for that matter, anybody who has done well in life, say an IIT, if he can somehow willpower himself to be disciplined, meticulous, and have a very focused objective in mind, I think everybody will do well in life.
Right, sir. Sure. So, sir, nextly, I would like to talk a bit about the ranking of IITs in the international arena. I mean, IITs have been producing exceptional talents, but if we talk about QS rankings, none of the IITs is in the top hundreds. And you yourself have been a part of IIT as well as Harvard University. So firstly, I mean, what do you think are the differences between these two universities, and how can the government of India take some initiatives to improve the ranking of IITs and improve the education system of our country?
Okay. So Tushar, there are two parts to your question, and let me take them up separately. The first part, I believe, is you're trying to ask, let's say, comparison or the academic comparison between Harvard and IIT. Is that correct?
Yes, right.
Okay. So you can clearly see some distinct patterns there. First and foremost, I think, and I talk of Harvard because this is only out of personal experience. In IIT, I thought that the professors teach to the top decile of the class, top 10% of the class. At Harvard, the professors would teach to the median of the class or to the average of the class. So at the end of the class, they would make sure that everybody in the class has grasped from whatever concepts were taught in the class. So let me put it this way, in 90% of my classes at Harvard, I did not come out of the class having felt that I just sleepwalked through life or I just slept through the class. This happened many times at IIT though. So I would lose track of the class in the first 10 to 15 minutes, and then the remaining 45 minutes would be blank. So this, I think, is one big difference. So their academic content may not be as sharp or may not be as evolved as IITs, but every student goes away with a lot of learnings from every class. This is one. Number two, I think the focus there is on learning rather than scoring marks or even passing a course. So in students, the spirit that I could see was how they can grasp the best from the course that they are taking. It was never that they have to pass a course with flying colors or even that they have to pass a course. They thought, okay, even if we cannot take an exam for this course, fine. But whatever little we can learn or whatever best we can learn, let's try to absorb that. So that spirit of learning versus that spirit of securing marks, that's another clear, distinct parameters between IIT and Harvard. Third, I think teaching at Harvard, at least, or I know this for many US universities, is very, very personalized. So all of the students would sit with a name card in front of them, and the teacher would address every student by name. He would make sure that over 2 or 3 classes, he has interacted with every student. And so some student sitting in the back bench, he doesn't feel left out of the class because he never knows when his name would be called out. And even on a cold call, if you're not able to answer a question, you are not made to feel embarrassed or humiliated. So it's a very, very collective effort. And this personalized teaching gets you connected to the classroom, to your fellow students, and to your teacher a lot more. Fourth, the entire semester schedule is given to you well in advance. So all my 24 classes for a particular course, I would know what would be taught in what class, what are the readings that have to be done in advance of the class, what assignments have to be submitted. So the exact schedule of the entire semester is given to you on the opening day of the semester. So it gives the students a lot of time to plan their courses, to plan for the classes, and therefore the impact of learning increases manifolds. So these, I thought, were the positive things that I saw at Harvard vis-a-vis IIT. The positives of IIT, of course, you would know. One, along with academic smartness, it teaches you to be street smart. So our hostel life, the life in our dorms, is probably much more vibrant, much more colorful, and much more instructive than life in US dorms. So life, this aspect of yours, interacting with your peers who are equally smart, makes you not only headstrong, but also absorb things from them, their life learnings. And this also, the competitive behavior or the competitive environment in IIT generally teaches you to be headstrong and street smart. And those are things missing in the US undergrad sector. Of course, I speak of very limited experience, and but this is something I noticed clearly. Second, individual students at IIT exert a lot more to excel individually. So they end up being great individuals in life. They would go to US and become CEOs of their top companies. In contrast, the system of learning at Harvard or in the West is much more team oriented. So you would work in teams rather than as an individual. And so you probably become a better team player. But at an individual level, probably our Indian students would excel better than the students in the West. So these are two distinct things that I saw in my 2 years of experience, what differentiates a Harvard experience from an IIT experience. And in that sense, I think of what I should do for my students, for my kids, in fact. So my understanding there was that it's best to have a good undergrad education in India, let's say at one of the IITs, and then go for a good grad education to the US. It could be for a PhD or for a master's, because your foundations are very strongly laid in India. You are taught the value of working hard. You are taught the value of slogging. You can take 8 courses at a time. You could attend classes 12 hours a day. So that way they build you up. And once those foundations are strong, I think you can go and procure advanced knowledge. And let me give some unsolicited advice, and then procure that knowledge and come back to India and work for the country. So that was my conclusion from what I saw in my 2 years in the US. Number 2, the second part of your question was how can IITs improve their rankings in the international systems of rankings? I think if you analyze the subcomponents of these ranking scores, you would see IIT is doing very well on most of these components. I think we fall behind on 2 components where we do very badly. One is international collaborations. So we have very few exchange students. We have very few international faculty members, and we have limited international exchange programs where our students go to universities abroad. And all these factors combine to make a scoring parameter called international collaboration in these international rankings, where IITs do rather badly. So I think if it's only the rankings per se, this is one part where we need to focus on. Of course, allied factors like great infrastructure. Now, why would international students, say from Western Europe or US or even our neighboring countries, why would they come and stay in a residential environment at IIT and attend classes? You need to give them great infrastructure, which is comparable to their home countries. You need to give them that quality of teaching. So those are allied factors which will help you improve your international collaboration parameter. The second parameter, I think, where our scores are relatively low compared to the international universities is the field of research and publications. And I think research as a concept has not found its true deserving place in the Indian public discourse. So, and this is something we need to teach our students right from the middle school or high school level. For example, when I was in US, I had my son and my daughter there. One was in primary school and my son was in the middle school. They were taught to do research in their academic subjects rather than just remember things by rote given in lessons and reproduce them in the exams. They were given topics, they were told to go to libraries, they were told to go to internet and research and create their own papers on those subjects, even as early as primary or middle school. So that element is missing in our lives, and this grows and expresses itself even during our IIT lives. So I know for sure that many of us as students at IITs, we do not come out with great publications or great papers while we study. In fact, we are not even exposed to the methodologies of research, the fundamentals of research, and how to bring out good publications. This includes both good research as well as good writing. And so this on this parameter, I think in our psyche, we need to introduce the concept of research from a school level or college level onwards. And I think once that is done, once our publication numbers are as good as any university in the West. So with these two things, international collaboration and publication parameters, once these matrices go up, I think automatically you will find our IITs not only in the top 100, but probably I would say in the top 10 or top 20 also.
Right, sir, definitely. Sir, there were a lot of questions from the students regarding UPSC preparation, because there are a lot of aspirants, and most of the questions were like, what is the right time to start the preparation? There was a question about optional subject, that how should we choose that, and how do we prepare ourselves in lines with the IIT curriculum, like if we want to start our preparation right from IIT days, so how can we balance both these things? So what is your piece of advice to the aspirants?
Again, a disclaimer. Once the answer will vary from person to person.
Definitely.
So for instance, somebody who has been reading newspapers since class 5 will need to spend a lot less time compared to somebody who has just taken up newspapers in the third year of IIT. So, but again, let me go to a higher level of abstraction and try to give the most general answer possible. On the optional, the generally accepted methodology is this. Try to narrow down the subjects you are interested in, which you have an attitude for and which you have an aptitude for. So this could be, for instance, 5 to 6 subjects. You could be interested in, let's say, a bouquet of subjects, which would include geography or public administration, political science, mathematics, physics, electrical, engineering. The next step should be to get hold of the syllabus for each of these subjects and the past few years' question papers. But these are available in the market. Then have a look at all these 5 or 6 subjects, because ultimately nobody else can make this decision for you. Nobody else, not your teachers, not your parents, nobody. You have to choose, you have to make this decision. But the approach could be as follows. So narrow down your subject list to 5 or 4 or 5 or 6. Get hold of the syllabi booklets as well as the past year's question papers. Go through them. Say take about 10 to 15 days to go through them in details, and then make the best guess estimate of where you are likely to score the highest marks. Because for UPSC, I would differ from the learning concept. This is an exam. Here your objective is to score as many marks as possible and get the rank. Right. So then take your call. Generally for IITians, I would suggest that try to stick to one of the subjects that you're strong in, and these include subjects like mathematics, physics, chemistry, or even engineering subjects. I think we have electrical engineering, we have mechanical engineering.
Yes.
And because many engineers, they end up taking social science subjects like public administration, geography is another popular subject, political science is popular, sociology is popular. I have always held a contrarian view to that. I believe that if you are IITians, you have already spent considerable time in science subjects, and also your 4 years at IIT, you have been in touch with engineering subjects and subjects like physics, chemistry. So they have already given you an edge, and you already start at an advantage if you take these subjects. But again, it's a personal recommendation. The ultimate outcome will vary from person to person. On time of preparation, I think a generally reasonable time to devote would be about 1 year ahead of the mains exam, which makes it about 6 months before the preliminary exam. So if the prelims are to start in May, I think that's the time, at least during my time, prelims used to happen in May or June. So your serious preparation, very serious preparation, certainly start from October or November onwards. I think you are comfortably placed if you can do that. But please do get into the habit of reading good newspapers, good magazines, current affairs, watching news well in advance. I think that I'm sure most of the students are doing that already, but I think you can never start too early on the news. Start during your school days, start during your first year, second year. If you haven't yet, start today, but that should be priority number one. And if you are reasonably updated on the current affairs, about 1 year time is sufficient before the mains exam. But having said that, Tushar, I'll be very happy if individual students want to get in touch and want to get a personalized answer to this question. I'll share my contact details with you and you can pass them on. I'll be very happy to answer their questions.
Sure, sir. And sir, if you could tell us that what newspapers or magazines you used to refer while your preparation?
So things might have changed. I would not treat them as perfect indicators because many new options might have come up. So while I can share with you what I read, but treat them with many pinches of salt because many new publications might have come up in the last several years. So on the magazines, I used to refer to Frontline. I used to refer to a magazine called Civil Services Chronicle, Economic and Political Weekly, and also used to refer to international publications sometimes, like The Economist. For my domestic news, I think I used to glance through newspapers like the Indian Express, and also read editorials from the Economic Times, only the editorials part. And another perennial favorite with the civil service students is the Hindu, which is a great newspaper. So, but I used to balance between the Hindu and the Indian Express, did not remain confined to the Hindu. So I think, and also watch news debates regularly in the evening.
Okay, sir. Sir, nextly, I would like to discuss with you regarding the importance of one's alma mater. And this question is obviously special for me as well, because we both belong from the same city. We both passed out from the same school, and obviously, like, I'm going to graduate from IIT Delhi in a few months. So what do you think, like, if we talk about these two institutions, like our school, Fatima, and our college, IIT, so what are those values which you gained in these institutions which have helped you to, succeed in life?
So, more than our school, it's a traditional conservative Catholic school, and it's a great school to be in. I thank my stars and my parents for choosing this school for me, and I'm sure you do likewise. So the biggest values that Our Lady of Fatima taught us were, I think, discipline and respect for others. And the value of these principles, I think it surpasses anything else in life. These have held most of us in good stead as we've progressed through life. These principles, discipline and respect for others, have, I think, not only in the field of academics, but also in our professional fields, in our interaction with others, these principles have helped us a lot. So I remember our school principals, Sister Gloria and Sister Elsie. So they were the two principals during my time. And many of us stalwart teachers, I think they have a huge contribution to play in what most of us became eventually. Coming to IIT Delhi, it's a great college. People recognize IIT Delhi worldwide. So even at Harvard, when I used to mention to people, even to belonging to continents as offbeat as Africa or South America, that I have a pass out of IIT Delhi, the respect level changed. I could see that in their eyes. So people recognize this institute, and it's because it's not without reason that they recognize this institute. Our students have done so well. So of course, one could say that the quality of intake of students is itself very high, but then IIT Delhi does a great job of polishing those students. You stay in a great environment. When you join IIT, you join it as probably your school topper or your district topper or your class topper. Here you see that everybody is a topper around you, everybody is better than you. And so you learn great things from people around you. Everybody has has a brilliant life story. Somebody has a life story of struggles. Somebody has a life story of privilege. Somebody has cut through different challenges. So when that environment, and especially in the hostels, those long late night chats extending into the early mornings, when you share those things, when you share those life principles, I think subconsciously a lot of your character is getting strengthened. That is one. Second, you have a great set of faculty at the institute. So they are role models, not only in what they teach, but the kind of lives they live. Many of them almost live saintly lives. So when you look up to them, that how their conduct in private, their conduct in public, I think they're massive role models. And third, a particular learning at the IITs is competition and competitive spirit. So with the best around you, with the best, brightest around you, you automatically get into the habit of working hard, going into details, not looking at things superficially. And this is a skill, Tushar, that you will find missing in many of the professionals today. You will find people who are experts, who are massive subject experts, but they fail to understand the macro picture. And there are people who understand the macro picture, but don't know the details. So this intersection of somebody knowing the micro and the macro, this skill is in very short supply, not only in India, but also internationally. And I think IITs do provide this skill to you. At a micro level, during our academic training, they teach you how to go into depths of each issue, how to conceptually understand everything and solve any problem using the first and basic principles. At a macro level, during your interactions, be in the evening, be late nights, or be in activities, even Board of Social Welfare or Board of Students Welfare, through our clubs, through our societies, through evening interactions with our faculty members, they teach you how to never lose sight of the macro picture. So I think this skill, which lies at the intersection of the micro and the macro, that's a massive value addition which is provided by IITs to the students.
Right, definitely. So, sir, we are towards the end of this session, and I have just one last question for you, and it is regarding, preparing yourselves for failures. So what I have seen up till now, that we as students are not very much prepared to face failures, and failures are a part of life, whether it may be a UPSC examination or any such examination or any such thing which we would like to do in our lives. Failures are something which we can't avoid. So what do you think, and what is your advice to our present generation, that how should we prepare ourselves for tackling these failures?
Let me repeat what Churchill's wife told Churchill at the eve of him taking up his position as the leader of England in the Second World War. She said, failures are not fatal and success is not final. I think these two things, every student, every aspirant, every practitioner, one needs to keep in mind. So if there was no failure, a human being would have been a perfect machine. And excellence does not lie in reaching perfection. Excellence always lies in striving for perfection, because you create value, you add value only when you are striving for perfection. To that extent, failures are massive stepping stones to success. And it's also said that the difference between a stumbling block and a stepping stone is just how high you raise your foot. So all the students who at any point of time, if unfortunately they face a failure in life, it's not a failure because it has taught you so many things. It has taught you how not to do a particular thing. So just let me end by saying this one line, that strength and wisdom, they don't lie in achieving perfection, but in always striving for it.
So thank you, sir, once again. Thank you so much.